Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose, man. Welcome back. Those new to the channel, consider liking, subscribing, and leave a donation for that fried rice and chicken wings, man. Yo, what happened to Tszyu last night? I mean, I'm sitting here right now. Let me tell you something. I always say the best fighter doesn't win. It's the boxer who fights the best. And last night, what you saw was, I don't know who's the best fighter, but the bottom line is, one fighter boxed pretty damn good, and the other one boxed pretty damn stupid. Now, I picked Tszyu to win. Everyone knows I'm high on Tszyu. And the reason why I've been speaking so highly of Tszyu is because I never thought Tszyu was that good. And then, because he came over to the States, forgot who he fought. I'll tell you right now. Matter of fact, I'll share it with you so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me close this crap out. This is what happened here. Oh, Lord have mercy. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so this is what you had, right? Well, let me just do it. This is Tszyu. 24 wins. He has a loss now. It was by KO. 2 losses now, right? One by KO. 17 knockouts, right? So he has a 70.5-inch reach, which was part of the problem because the guy he fought had a 74-inch reach. But this is what happened with Tszyu. He came over here to America, right? He fought Errol, right? In Minneapolis. He got dropped in the first round. Where was it? Yeah, dropped in the first round, came back, and they went 12 rounds, right? And that's where I said, okay, Tszyu, there's more to him than we've been seeing. Like he's built for it tough. You know what I'm saying? But that wasn't enough to really get me to thinking that Tszyu could make noise in the 154-pound division. Anyway, after the Gausha fight, he goes and he fights Tony Harrison. Nobody thought Tszyu was going to win that fight. And he gets in there and totally destroys Tony Harrison. Now, the size of the ring played to Tszyu's advantage, but the bottom line is he destroyed him. All right? And then 3 months later, he fights Carlos Ocampo. Totally destroys Ocampo in the first round. And at this point now, he has everybody's attention. Okay, but they're saying, okay, he beat Ocampo. Let's see what happens here 4 months later, and he fights Brian Mendoza. A tough fight, but basically just totally unanimous decision, beat him down over 12 rounds. At this point, he has everybody's attention. Everyone at this point is saying Tszyu is the real deal. Tszyu is a problem. Tszyu is a threat to Charlo, to any and everybody, 154 to 160. Because they just didn't expect him to get the wins that he got. I mean, and you look, he did it in a year. Harrison, March 2023. Ocampo, June 2023. Mendoza, October 2023. That's crazy. Anyway, after that, I'm like, hey, I don't think nobody beating this dude. You know what I'm saying? He gets in there with Fundora, and we're all, for the most part, thinking Tszyu is going to tranquilize Fundora. He gets in there with him. He's giving him the business. Then he gets the cut. And that changed the rest of the fight. But he had already blasted Fundora's nose off of his face. But if it wasn't for that elbow, I think Tszyu would have knocked Fundora out. But bottom line is, he was very active, had 3 fights in less than a year, then went and fought Fundora 6 months later, or 5 months later. So he was extremely active. Goes to the decision. He loses a split decision. You can kind of understand because, Fundora got behind his jab and Tszyu was in a horrible position with that cut on his head and the blood was just kind of cascading into his eyes. So he fought the whole fight blind. And he still almost won. Anyway, this is where it gets interesting because we're thinking, okay, Tszyu, you got to get himself healthy. You got the cut over his head. This time off should be pretty good, right? I don't think many people were expecting Tszyu to look very bad going into the fight with Murtazaliev. They just figured, hey, he's going to have about 7 months out the ring. That's not too bad. But he gets in with Murtazaliev, and he'll do the business. Because not many people knew who Murtazaliev was. To be honest with you, I knew his name, and I knew Jamel Charlo had put some duck sauce on the fried rice, paid him step-aside money. But what I'm learning now, there's several fighters who paid him step-aside money. And he's gladly accepted the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they paid him for nothing. But anyway, going into the fight last night, I think we all were expecting Tszyu to do the business. And let me tell you something, boy, were we wrong. Now, for the few that were like, screw you, a champion, you don't know what you're talking about. You got this one wrong, too, my man. Hey, I'm more than glad to say that I got that shit. I had no idea that the fight would go down like that. Somebody said that was like Mayweather Gotti. I'm like, it was an ass whooping like that. I think it was more like Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. And what I was saying that because of the left hook was just killing Tszyu, killing him. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, nobody could have seen that shit coming. Now, I did say before the fight started, it's basically who lands the big right hand first. That's who I think wins. I mean, I wasn't delusional. I said, Murtazaliev can scrap. But I just had a feeling Tim's going to get there. He always gets there with the right hand. And he got there in the first round, but man, he was just, he was just there like brawling. There wasn't much head movement. I was calling this shit super gap. His hands were up here like this, wide open. It wasn't tight. He wasn't in position to block anything, to catch any shots. And then his shots were telegraphed. And Murtazaliev kept countering him with that left hook. It was horrible. And he was shooting the uppercut. The left hook was killing Tszyu. Because we all know Tszyu is right hand happy. So as soon as he would throw like jab, right hand, as soon as Murtazaliev felt the contact, he would just turn over the left hook. And brutal. I never saw that coming. Now, there are people who are saying Tszyu was overconfident. Other people saying he got ahead of himself. You know, when he fought Fundora, he had already had his mindset on Virgil Ortiz, Terrence Crawford. He already had his mindset on fighting, Errol Spence. So he had put the horse before the cart, right? And you saw what happened. He didn't get the fight. So going into this fight, they're saying the same thing. He already, again, putting the horse before the cart. Was already planning his whole year 2025 out. He planned to fight before the end of this year and defend his belt in Australia. Didn't quite work out that way. Did he underestimate the opponent? Was he overconfident? You know what? Maybe a little bit of both. But one thing about Tszyu, this is what you want to see, people. What Tszyu is doing is what many fighters won't do. He's actually getting in the ring, scrapping. You ain't going to see these other guys getting there doing that. You're not going to see it. There aren't many fighters who are going to sit there and fight the best and be okay with taking a loss. Tszyu is that guy. He deserves all the respect in the world. When I see these people coming talking about he's a tomato can, he's a hype job. Okay, if he's a hype job, what was Brian Mendoza? If he's a tomato can, what was Carlos Ocampo? If he's a fucking bum, what was Tony Harrison? You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about? So you'll kill the noise. That's not fair. But I'm wondering what Tszyu does next, because I think that fight, him and Sebastian Fundora, I think it took a pound of flesh out of both of them. I really do. Like Tszyu, I know Murtazaliev can crack, but Tszyu just, I don't know if it's when they collided heads, he seemed to be worried that he may be bleeding. Maybe that affected him, because now his mind is on, oh shit, I almost got cut. If I start bleeding again, because he was kind of dabbing at it, I said, damn. Maybe that got him off his game. So maybe that had something to do with it. But I think it has a lot more to do with him and Fundora taking a pound of flesh out of each other. His inactivity, it wasn't that long, but he definitely wasn't fighting every 3 months. To take that 7 months off, maybe that affected him too. Or maybe Murtazaliev just has a whole lot to do with it. Look, them guys coming out of Russia can scrap. Put some respect on them dudes' name. Them Eastern European cats, them guys are heavy-handed and they can fight. Plus Murtazaliev, the other thing no one's talking about, the man's 6'1", 74-inch reach. He got the same reach as Crawford. So everybody out there, well, Crawford gonna destroy him. Man, y'all better listen. Stop with that bullshit. Okay, I'm not saying he beats Crawford, but what I'm telling you is, I think Crawford has his hands full. I think he has his hands full with Murtazaliev. The thing about it is Tim Tszyu was able to land. So if Tim Tszyu was able to land, then you would think Crawford would be able to. But Tim Tszyu takes risks. Tim Tszyu turned that fight into a mashup crasher. So yeah, he was going to take some to get his off. The problem is he wasn't able to take as much as he wasn't able to take enough to get off the shots he needed because Murtazaliev just hits that hard. And Tim Tszyu was wide open. He was getting, and I got to be crystal clear on this. Tim Tszyu was getting hit with shit he didn't see. He was getting countered and getting hit with shots he didn't see. Those are the worst shots to get hit with. The worst shots to get hit with. So going forward, what happened with Tim Tszyu? I'm going to tell you right now. Somebody's talking about, nah, he's washed up, he shouldn't fight. No, that's bullshit. Tim Tszyu should come back and fight. But this, to me, is the optimal time for Errol Spence to fight Tim Tszyu. Because let's be real, Tim Tszyu is against Fundora, he looked pretty damn good. But in this fight, he looked pretty vulnerable. But again, Murtazaliev is a beast. But I think this is the kind of fight that Errol Spence needs. A guy like Tim Tszyu, coming off of 2 losses, looking pretty human now. If you hit him, maybe you can hurt him. But it's not just going to, it's going to take more than one shot. And you got to have a big punch like Murtazaliev. But I think that's the safest fight for Errol Spence. Errol Spence fighting Fundora. Look, you see the secret society is intentionally keeping Fundora inactive because they want for Errol Spence to come and get a big win over Fundora. Look, I'm rooting for Spence to get back in the ring and maybe he can extend his boxing career. But I will say, after watching Tim Tszyu, maybe, because before I like Fundora killed Spence, maybe Fundora had a pound of flesh taken out of him by Tim Tszyu. And maybe Fundora just doesn't respond the way he would have normally had he not gone into that war or that mashup crashup with Tim Tszyu. Maybe Errol Spence has more than a chance to clip Fundora now. But I tell you what, Fundora and Tim Tszyu, I think everybody should be chomping at the bit to scrap those guys. And you know what's the good thing is? You can say what you want about Fundora. I call him Cockroach Man. Say what you want about Tim Tszyu. Those guys will fight you. They're not afraid. They're willing to put their O's on the line. People can clown them. Look, man, stop praising these guys with undefeated records. Fucking undefeated record. You'll praise these guys, laud these guys who are out here putting it all on the line. Because you see, no one knew who Murtazaliev was, right? You know why too, right? Because nobody wanted to fight him. It happens in boxing. It happens. People put that duck sauce on their fried rice. Don't want to give them opportunities. You look at Bacoli. Most people don't even know who he is. Then he come on the scene, and then he kills Jared Anderson. Then you hear everybody talk about him in sparring, how he's knocking out Usyk, knocking out Fury, beating the shit out of everybody. Now it's like, okay, he got his break. Let's see how far Bacoli can go. There's some of these fighters whose careers have been suppressed because other fighters know how much of a threat they are. And they don't want to risk their records or risk losing a fight against these beasts. And so Tim Tszyu deserves all the praise. But I tell you what, Murtazaliev is on to the next. He's calling out Crawford. He's calling out everybody. I don't think they're going to fight that guy. I just don't think they're going to fight him, man. You look at Murtazaliev, man, the way he did the business last night. Look, I'm not having a knee-jerk reaction to Murtazaliev. He did the business, okay? He deserves all the praise in the world. But when I take a look at Murtazaliev, and I'm just being real, and I say to myself, okay, let me make this a little smaller for you, right? And I say, okay, you got Murtazaliev, who's the IBF champion, and then you have, look at the breakdown. You got Crawford, Madrimov, Fundora, Ortiz Jr., Tszyu. Tszyu's just falling off of the ring rack and stack. Bohachuk, Ramos, Conwell, Mendoza, Murtazaliev. Murtazaliev just leapfrogged all these dudes. He probably ranked up there around number 5 or 4 right now. But when you come and take a look, you know, the way Murtazaliev performed, I think he beats Virgil Ortiz. I think Ortiz will come in there being over anxious, throwing 1,000 punches and get countered and caught and dropped the way Bohachuk did him. And I think Murtazaliev, again, Bohachuk got robbed in my opinion. I think Murtazaliev would do him the same way. You know, Murtazaliev and Bohachuk, kind of similar styles, but Murtazaliev is much stronger. I think Bohachuk throws more punches. Madrimov, powerful like Murtazaliev, but he has a very unique herky-jerky style. But bottom line is Bohachuk, Murtazaliev, and Madrimov, those would all be good fights because they come to fight. Now, Murtazaliev against Fundora. I think that's an interesting fight. He may get Fundora because Murtazaliev obviously has a chin, and he's got power, and he has a 74-inch reach. And Fundora's, I think, at like 81, 82. But the bottom line is I think Murtazaliev can close the gap and get there. Murtazaliev against Terrence Crawford. Look, I ain't going to take it to the stupid here. But what I'll say is Terrence Crawford, he's got to get active. He's got to get active, But his goal isn't, I don't think his goal is become undisputed. I don't think he's looking to become undisputed. I think Crawford's looking for the biggest money possible, and that's what he said. But to think about Crawford fighting Fundora, I could see that, okay? But then to fight Murtazaliev, I just don't see Crawford taking that fight. I think he's going to be like, why? I don't think Crawford will take the Murtazaliev fight. But when you come and look at the rack stack, all of these need to be updated. The only one been updated lately is the IBF. Erickson Lubin may have to get in the ring with Murtazaliev. And I'm telling you right now, Erickson Lubin can't beat Murtazaliev. If he beats Murtazaliev, man, job well done to Erickson Lubin. I just don't think he beats Murtazaliev. Murtazaliev, man, he was hitting Tszyu with goddamn 1-2 man swivel. He was doing all kind of shit in that ring last night. And Lubin can fight. He's got a 75-inch reach, I believe. But it'll be real interesting to see how that fight goes. But that being said, man, Tszyu, back to the drawing board. This loss set him back 2 years, in my opinion. But the 154-pound division is so stacked that guys like Tszyu, yeah, he took a loss. But he can come back now in the next 2 fights and find himself fighting for a title. Especially if, there's something interesting that happens with Terrence Crawford, where all of a sudden Crawford decides he wants to do something else and maybe he gives up the belts. I don't know. But I think within a year, depending on how things work, Tszyu goes and works on his head movement. And this is the other thing. Tszyu, according to his team, he just threw the game plan out the window. Which, according to his team, is the same thing he did for Fundora. Took the game plan, set it aside. And in this fight, they told him, first 4 rounds, be careful. You don't want to get caught by this guy. And Tszyu did the opposite. Instead of treading on thin ice, being cautious, he came in there looking for the mashup, crash up, and he found it. He got his face and ass mashed up, crashed up by the Russian bing-bings of Murtazaliev. Horrible. But to me, the number one thing Tszyu needs to work on is clinching. Mayweather was a brilliant clincher. Jab, right hand, left hook, clinch. And if Tszyu would have just clinched, held on, even threw that motherfucker Murtazaliev out the ring, I think he would have had a better chance. But Tszyu was like, nah, I ain't holding. If I'm going out, I'm going out with flames. I'm going out firing. And that's what he did. And he went down in flames. But, man, that shit just took something out my chest, boy, because I just really was rooting for Tszyu. Because they weren't giving this man any credit because of his dad. He only got there because of his name. Even though he's in the ring beating people, they still, he would have never done that if it wasn't for his dad's name. What the fuck, what does his dad's name have to do with him beating these guys? His dad's not fighting him. So anyway, I'm cool, man. But let's see what happens when he comes back. I can't wait to see Tszyu back. 154-pound division is crazy. It's just like 140-pound division. At any given day, anyone can lose. Even Terrence Crawford. His ass can lose too. The 154-pound division is dangerous. That shit is dangerous. That being said, y'all keep cool. Tszyu, was he overconfident? Was he looking forward? Was he not following the game plan? Was it the inactivity? What was it? I tend to think it was just Murtazaliev. That's my opinion. Anyway, keep cool in the breeze.